Life of love. Life of love. With Joy Hilson.
Dear God, Creator, Universe, thank you for bringing Joanne and I together again in this sacred space that we created. I honor her efforts and her diligence, and I'm just really excited for you to work through us and for us to bring forth a message for the highest good. Let this message be strong enough to reach those ears that need to hear, but gentle enough to reach their heart. As we bring forth the earth which we want to live in, which we want our children to live in, which glorifies Mother Gaia, may we continue to focus on raising our vibrations so that we can be aware of things that need to change, things that need to be transmuted, and help us to be a part of that transmutation, that part of the raising the vibration and consciousness, so we can focus our energies on the things that need to be changed to help our evolution as people. And just again, I honor Joanne, and I am so thankful to be here today. So it is. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I forgot, I'm calling in my guides and all the enchanted beings that want to collaborate together. I'm like, wait, I forgot something.
Because that's who we are.
They're here with us, our whole team. Yes, it's part of our field.
Good.
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's delightful to talk with you again. So
I know. And I looked, and our last episode aired January 20th, I think it was 22nd of this year, but we recorded it around the same time.
That's right.
So
yeah. Cool.
It's been about a year since we connected in this. I mean, we've been connecting on emails and such, but it goes fast, right?
It does go fast. And right about the time that episode was coming out, I was starting to work on the new book. So it's all good.
Yeah.
And I'm already working on the next book. So it's okay.
You got it going. I got a little download on a new book that I'm going to try to put together. And
cool.
It's different from Life of Love. It's going to be about women and probably menopause, something about menopause.
Good topic.
But I'm going to make it more like maybe like a romance novel type, but shining light on what we go through going through menopause.
Right. Because you just don't know unless you've actually gone through it. Yeah. I'm grateful
Talk about
that
a
I'm past
metamorphosis.
that. And there's a whole TV show, like, I don't know if it's a sitcom, but it's some kind of, I don't know if it's a sitcom. I haven't watched it, but it is about several women. They're friends, and they're all going through menopause, and it's like,
there's so much there.
There is.
And I feel like it's an untapped place that, this rite of passage. So, I want to before I forget, I want to thank everyone for tuning in again and sharing these messages. It's part of us helping to live our life of love by sharing inspiration and however form it looks on the day. Like, I think the most important thing is to be centered in, I want to give forth my best today. I want to show up in my highest good. And so these kinds of messages, I hope, give inspiration and perspective and insight, and it's fun. And so tell us about your new book. I'm so excited. I think you said it was called The Prince Was Wrong.
It's called The Prince Was Wrong, Leaving the Narcissist Behind. So it's got an image that looks very similar to my ex-husband. the number 7 ex-husband, and because it turns out he is a narcissist, and his nickname is the Prince, so, and he thought he was never wrong about anything because that's what narcissists do. And I tried to tell him, you're not always right. Oh, yes, I am. It's like, yeah, no, you're not. And I don't know if I came up with the title or like one of my granddaughters did, but they were very helpful in giving me insight for this book. But the graphic designer for the publisher, I said, this is what I want. And, there's a crown shattering on the floor, and he's just looking, going like, what the heck happened?
His kingdom is falling down around him.
Yeah, he's not in a happy place, and that sucks for him. But it's like, as my therapist has told me, well, she keeps reminding me, it's like, my life has gotten so much better because I dumped him. And it's, I'm still going through things that really irritate me and are annoying. And have I been able to retire yet? No. Am I still dealing with some niggly things that relate to him? Yes. But I don't have to talk to him about it. I don't have to talk to him at all, which is great. It's interesting because one of the editors for my first book, her ex-husband is also a narcissist, and we had gotten together, after I moved up here and after that book came out, and she goes, your second book should be about the narcissist ex. I'm going, oh, please no.
You just want to put in the box and put in the closet and forget about it, right? Like,
yeah, but unless you really create as much closure for yourself as you can, because it's really hard to totally cut all those cords with a narcissist. And thankfully, he and I didn't have any kids together, because then we'd be tangled together forever. But it's hard. And like I said, I'm still dealing with one little financial piece that it's like, and it just keeps going. And it's like, when is that going to end? I didn't know that's what we were dealing with until I'd moved to Oregon, and we started, I started kind of looking at what's going on. And I passed the sandwich board that my therapist has out in the neighborhood going, I help people with going through narcissistic abuse. It's like, that's what it's called. Because I just thought he was a spoiled brat because he's an only child and he wants his way all the time. And he always thinks he's right. And I just thought he was a spoiled brat, which he is. But there's also a name for it. And it's interesting because I didn't get, unlike some of my other author colleagues and stuff, I didn't get always the bullying or the, some of the red flags are they're either bullying you or they're just making you feel wrong all the time and stuff. But I just, because I'm such a good codependent, or I was, it's like you want to just keep everything. It's like I wasn't always doing what he wanted me to do as far as like helping him with his projects forever and doing this and that, maybe starting little businesses that he wanted to start. But it was always, as long as I was kind of trying to go along with the flow of things that, he thought were great ideas. But in the meantime, I was also doing my own business, and I'm a bookkeeper. So I had built up this huge business, which I do very well at. But you turned your back on my projects or my needs. It's like, I'm paying the bills. You're in prison. You're not paying anything. So it's just, I learned that, this guy is a narcissist. He hits a lot of the red flags. And if you step over the line or if you get out of his agenda, then it's like, he gave me a couple little quiet lectures in the visiting room in prison, which were very uncomfortable. It's like, and I wasn't allowed to leave the room and go cry. It's like, you can't cry and you just, sit here. Don't get up. Don't embarrass me. And it's like these little things. And some of the really mean stuff didn't start happening until I moved from California, because he assumed I was just leaving him. I go, no, I'm leaving your house and it's falling apart and you're in prison and it's COVID and I can't see you anyway. So I'm going to go be by my family. So at least I have people to be in the bubble when COVID first started. And so that was very helpful. But also I was dealing with this big house in California that was, it was over 100 years old. It was costing me a ton of money. I'm still in debt because of all that. But just all these things he expected me to just keep up because, the good wife does this.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of emotional manipulation.
Yeah, he was really good at that. So, no, he wasn't physically violent toward me because he thought you just don't hit girls. And, he could never yell at me in public visiting. He never yelled at me, but he yelled at me once we started writing about these things. It was like very emphatic letters and lots of capital letters. And it's like, you're screaming at me in your letters. So like for 3 years, we were trying to untangle this through letters mostly because I didn't see him much. And all of a sudden, when the editor had said, you should write about this, I'm going, look, I have all these letters with all this mean stuff about, well, a good wife should be grateful that she's got this house in this nice neighborhood that her husband provided for her. I go, yes, but there are no other prison wives in this area. unless they live in the poor area of town. And I don't even see them at visiting. So yes, I live in a nice neighborhood, but your house is falling apart and everybody's expecting me to pay for it. And
Gosh, it sounds like he wanted you to be in prison too.
I guess I pretty much was. Yes,
Yeah.
because by the time I left, I was feeling so alone. And, you know, I kind of felt alone anyway because my whole life was working and networking for work. So I didn't really have a lot of friends that I went and did fun stuff with. And I would go see him on the weekends pre-COVID. And I felt so isolated. And then the winter hit, you know, so the trees are creaking and I was afraid the trees were going to fall on the house like they do. And it was a crazy time. And I was started, because I had, so like the fall before COVID, I had started saying, you know, we're in our mid 60s and we really should start thinking about downsizing so I can retire before I'm dead. And, you know, I want some kind of life after retirement. And, you know, we'd always hoped he'd get out of prison. He's never going to get out of prison. And he just never. The only idea he ever had was selling an asset overseas that I don't think ever came about. And if it ever came about, I never saw any money. So, you know, we were going to fix up the house, maybe rent it. So he never wanted to sell the house, which now it's going to have to be sold. But, you know, he didn't want to get rid of any things. He didn't really want to downsize, you know, it's like, because he hadn't been around his things for so long. It's like, well, your things are starting to, you know, deteriorate here, dude. So I was just trying to be practical, but he really wasn't very helpful. And so we were fighting about that the whole rest of the time. And in his mind, it is, well, a good wife should feel okay about helping with some of the upkeep. I go, that little bit of upkeep on your house is an $8,000 roof repair here and an $8,000 sewer repair here and a this and a that. And no, I didn't have to pay rent, but I paid a lot and I would have never lived in that neighborhood had I not been married to him. But, cause that's, you know, I don't need a giant house and I couldn't have afforded it. You know, he's like, to live in that part of Northern California, you need a 2 or 3 person income. And I make a good income, but not enough to keep maintaining that, living in that area all by myself. So
I can't even imagine the property taxes alone.
Thankfully, you know, his parents, you know, they were under Prop 13. Compared to the other houses in the area, my property taxes were pretty reasonable. And I have clients that live in that county, so I know what they're paying.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, I'm grateful, but it still got to be too much because you keep losing your insurance because you live in a wooded area and you live in California and nobody wants to insure anybody in California anymore. You know, then all these repairs started. It's like, well, it became a huge burden. Yeah. He didn't see it that way. So, yeah. And, you know, it was just like, and it was, a lot of it is, I started standing up for myself and it's like, oh my God, who's this person? Who's this woman who dares tell me what they want? And it's like, and some of it was, you know, well, you know, I always asked him, it's like, well, why did you want to get married? And my new part of it was because it's better for an inmate to have a wife in case they need somebody to advocate for them. Okay, I get that. But it was more like, you know, you just need somebody to be in the picture, but he could never tell me, you know, when you're married to somebody for any length of time, you can tell them what you like about them or, you know, what you just love about them. And I didn't need that all the time, but he couldn't tell me at all. And he wouldn't. And it's like, well, men just don't do that. I go, well, they do, you know, I think they do. Maybe not. Yeah, if they're wise and if they want to stay married, you know, and if that's important because, you know, I don't need to hear it all the time, but it is nice to know that you didn't just marry me so I could take care of your house and do your projects because finally that's what it was feeling like. And he just couldn't understand that. And then like one of the last times I saw him in person and, you know, we'd already decided to get divorced, but we were trying to work. I go, you know, it's like, so like, why didn't you even want to hardly kiss me? It's like, you should have tried to be prettier. It's like, we've been together 25 years and what, am I ugly? Say that to your wife. Yes, I'm overweight, or I was. I lost 30 pounds after I left him, but it's like, you don't say that to you. Yeah, it's like, And a mutual friend of ours who's become like my best friend, he goes, "You lost 170 pounds when you left him." And I go, "Yes, I did." And I lost another 30.
No, because he weighed 170 pounds.
Guess I lost 200. So I weigh nothing.
Yeah, you're
I
weightless.
weigh nothing. I weigh
you
nothing.
lost all the baggage.
I know. I was able to start standing up for myself. He didn't like it. So we had a couple of years of really rough letter writing, but that was all the fodder for the book. So most of the book is examples of his, garbage coming out of his pen. And,
I was just thinking he really made it easy to divorce him, right? Like, if he's going to tell you that you should have been prettier, that good wives, like all these flags, you're like, okay, this is a really easy decision at this point. Like,
yeah, and it's like, and I don't know what one thing he said, but it's like, there was all these little things because like, don't tell me what a good wife should be because I've been with you 25 years. So I stuck by you for 20, a good 20, seeing you all the time in prison, come on. And did I get much appreciation for that? No, because
I would ask, did you ever ask him to be a good husband?
I think I did, and
like a good husband would
do this and this and this. Yes. Yeah. And I tried to bring up, it's like one of the things you have to do is set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to start doing that with him. He doesn't like to be told he's wrong. Narcissists don't like to be told that they're wrong ever. And they just don't see it. And it's interesting because like one of the last times I saw him and the divorce proceedings had started after the "you should have been prettier" thing. We're in the public visiting room for one last visit because I wanted to make sure he got the divorce papers. I wanted to make sure he knew I was going to stop paying for things at the house. And I go, you said you were very mean. He goes, "I don't remember saying anything mean." I go, "Well, I have it all in writing." And I it's not like I announced to him that I was going to write a book, but it's like I have proof. You were mean. I'm hearing from my best friend. Did he ever say mean things about me, like after visiting was over? Yeah. I couldn't. Well, that SOB. Because in public, we looked like the perfect loving couple. And a lot of the times it felt like that, but then it didn't all of a sudden. And as I moved away and I started going to therapy and COVID was hitting, so you couldn't really go out and meet new people anyway. And I wasn't going to jump into some new relationship. And my daughter was going through a breakup at the time. So, one of our pet projects during the beginning of COVID was like, well, let's make a bucket list of what we want from like the next guys. What's going to be the things that will really stick? What is it that we really want? And so later, when I started like going on dating apps and everything, we could do a whole session about that because that's just a minefield. But anyway, oh, yeah. But I let the Leo out of the cage, as I tell people, because I am very much a Leo. I'm finally not this mousy person sitting in the cage anymore. And I don't try to be overbearing, but I'm very transparent. So I, have become this person who speaks up for myself and who is perfectly willing to tell any man that wanted to take some interest is, here's what's important to me, including the questions of, are you liberal or conservative? Are you religious or spiritual? Oh, by the way, I'm a witch. Do you care? And, and this is who I am. And this is what I stand for. And as we got closer to the election, it's like, okay, I'll just put it out there. Who are you voting for? Because that's going to be a deal breaker for me if you're not voting the same way I am. And usually I don't, usually I'm pretty lax on that. But, obviously lately we have to be mindful of what's happening. So it's just, I've become very transparent and I have become this person who knows what I want and I'm not afraid to say it. So, and I'm very much for empowering women. So you're going to like what the next book is about too, but because it's right in line with, I think, kind of what you want to do. But I'm very much for offering hope to women that you can get out of these crappy relationships. And, there's people out here who love you and want to help you. Our stories may all be different, and we may have experienced like the narcissism differently. Over 150 million people in the United States alone who have some kind of narcissist in their life, because sometimes it's your parent or your child or your sibling or your friend or your colleague or your romantic partner. It could be anybody. but it's exhausting. It's
and
really
it just sounds so
exhausting.
therapeutic to put it all down in
Yeah.
a book and be like,
Yeah.
purge.
And to,
And
yes, go
you know,
ahead.
have you gotten feedback from people who have gotten hope or ideas from you? Tell me how it's played
Well, it's
out.
interesting on the podcast, it goes well, but you know, I've been in a couple of summits, especially where other people who have experienced it, and we just feel this camaraderie. Some of the guys that I've had like a coffee date with, oh yeah, my ex-wife was a narcissist, so at least they get it, you know. So you know, because like I said, anybody can experience it. I haven't had a lot of people giving me feedback, so
Nice.
you know, I know some people are buying it, so that's great. I'm hoping it's offering hope. I've also just published a healing journal to go along with it because writing has become a very magical part of my healing practice. And I journal almost every day and just for myself. So that's lovely. And, you know, I walk, and so, you know, I have a list of self-care things that have been very much part of the healing journal. So, you know, it's not like I just sit in my house and then talk to my therapist, because I actively do things that make me feel better.
So important, right? It's
Yeah.
so important. And well, I'm just going to speak from experience. When I let one of those things go, it always comes back to bite me. Like, I'll get out of the routine for I traveled, and I just get out of, you know, there things happen, emergencies, and you sort of shift your attention and you put your needs to the side, and then all of a sudden you're like, I haven't been clearing my energy, or I haven't walked outside today and I'm a mess. Like, I need to see, you know, the sacred geometry in plants, you know,
Exactly.
like you absorb it in your being.
Now that it's rainy season, I try to get out when it's not raining, but I will still walk I had to go do some errands this morning, and I'm walking back, and this one street I was on, it's like all these squirrels, and it's like, and I'm talking to the squirrels. I'll talk to any little creature and any plant and stuff. And it's just so magical, and it just helps brighten your mood when I've been on my walks. I'll get inspiration for a talk I'm about to give, or like if I'm in a writing project, it's like, oh, this is how I need to say it. You know, I knew kind of what I wanted to write about that day. And if I'm mindful, I'll say, okay, now help me say it the best way that it needs to be written down. And, you know, I get the ideas. It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
No, I'm reading a book, and it's, you know, this woman, she's a schizophrenic, and she's written a book. It's called The Operators and Things.
Wow.
It's a pretty famous book about schizophrenia. But she's talking about your subconscious. And it occurred to me that that's when our subconscious can help us, is when we're not laser focused on the activity in front of us or the problem. Right. When we get out and we feel the expansion, we feel the space, we breathe, and our subconscious can give us hints about what we need to do, because we're so wise.
Exactly.
We're so wise, but our brain, our ego will try to say, oh, that's a bad idea, or you can't do that. It's almost like a narcissist is your ego sometimes. Your ego's a narcissist. It just tries to keep you in this box.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, like, especially when the weather was changing, and the fall and spring are my favorite times of the year, but it's like when it was really stepping into fall here in Portland, it's like, the air is just so alive for me. And even though we've got soggy leaves all over the place, when the colors were starting to change and the air was just changing, it's just so magical to me. I just love it. Look, there's the full moon, and it's just so gorgeous. You just have to take a moment to see these things and just appreciate those little things that will get us through the day. Because, you know, if I looked at, you know, all the crap and annoying things I'm still dealing with, even, you know, work or him, or it's like, whatever. It's like, I could be a total depressed mess, but I just really choose not to be. So, and why? It's not going to help me.
It's a choice. And God, you know, show me what I need to see. Like, help me see what I need to see to get through this with grace.
Yes.
And understanding. And did you ever hear the whole thing about how narcissists are empaths, but they just don't know how to use their power to serve others? They use it just for serving their self.
That's interesting. I hadn't really heard that, but that could make sense. because it's interesting. My ex, I'll give him credit for having a magical practice. It's different than mine. And he has intuitive abilities. And on the surface, I've seen things where he tries to help people. You know, he is of service at times, especially at the prison. But it all comes back to making himself look good most of the time. So,
you know, I've been bringing life to Star Trek lately, and it's like, it's almost like Narcissists are the Klingons of the human race. We're the Federation. Like, we want to serve humanity. There's always those Klingons.
Well, one of the fascinating things that has happened
we broke the internet.
And, you know, as far as creativity
Joy and I just
goes,
broke the internet with Joy.
I like to
I don't
cook.
know what's happening.
I don't like to sew so much anymore. But, you know, I'll do needlework. I'll do yarn thing, you know, knit and crochet. And, you know, I do those kind of things. And I'm writing now. But my creative juices have ramped up.
I love that. Well, I was going to pick your brain about any updates about the Intergalactics that's happening.
My focus on my talks is more about, because when I do work with a channeling medium, and sometimes they'll give me messages from non-humans and stuff. But I you know, I've definitely come to embrace that we have this connection with intergalactic beings, and they really want us to be part of their world or universe, or, you know, they would really like a connection with us. We're just not at their level. You know, we're not as enlightened as they are, but it's like we really need to make ourselves better people. We really need to raise our vibration, whatever the verbiage is. I don't use it, but, you know, it's just like we need to, you know, lift ourselves up, and we'll be better prepared to communicate with them. Tell people, because this is kind of like what my newer talk is like. Here's all about a bunch of different kinds of cool aliens that I love to talk about. And over here, if you could understand, it's like a lot of them have fairies in their world, because fairies live in the universe. A lot of them have sorceresses and magical beings in their part of their society. So, you know, so it's like, cool, you've got a raptor that's a witch. I love that. So, you know, it's like, so I connect with them on many levels, and I love it, because even witches from a long time ago, especially in the British Isles, they would get, witchcraft is just science. It's just using natural law. So it's no big scary thing. Well, it doesn't have to be. I don't ever do anything dark, but it's like, you know, a lot of them, I totally believe they got a lot of their information from alien downloads, because, you know, the natural laws that would be everywhere in the universe. It doesn't matter, you know, what your belief system is. There's natural laws wherever you live. But, so it's interesting. The information and the knowledge has been there. And
so do you think natural law and universal law are the same thing?
I don't know, but, you know, your planet may not look like this planet, but you're still going to have natural laws that govern it wherever you live.
Gotcha.
And there are there are other planets that are like Earth. I just think that witchcraft is science, and you use the natural laws and the energetics of plants and herbs and things to make better things, you know, create better things in your life. So you could have energetics and qualities for, you know, maybe that herb on that planet is not the same kind of herb here, but, you know, you can have the same kind of magical properties going on and energies going on. So there's many alien species that are very spiritual. So I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to explore and to know that we're not alone. And I don't know if you caught, Trump spoke on Joe Rogan, and they touched on the ET disclosure. The impression was that he really wasn't interested in it, but he was going to look at it again.
Well, whoever gets voted into office is told that it is a real thing. They're just never allowed to know as much as like the military knows. So it will be interesting. It would be really smart of him to acknowledge that it is a very real big thing. And because we're already getting lots of technology from them, we have for a long, long time. Everything is not a good thing with different aliens, but certainly the technology, we get a lot of technology from them, and they're helping us, and they're hindering us from behind the scenes. It depends on
what
which
their intention is.
Yes, they're not all friendly. And
Right.
maybe the less friendly ones work with that other government.
Yeah, with the shadow government. So do you have medbeds come across your field? I have
Who?
friends who are really interested in the medbed technology.
I've heard of it. I haven't really investigated it. So, and I do know, just, again, thankfully from all the info that I did get from the X, it's like there are species who have very advanced medical technology themselves. So, if we could go hang out with the raptors for a while, they have wonderful doctors and things, and ability to like help you regrow skin, or they have interesting abilities, and probably without the use of a med bed, but I don't know, maybe they do. I don't know how they do it. He didn't, disclose any secrets. There's a dog species that was very good with medical stuff, and they're not from Australia, but that's where their base is here. But
That's where
it would just really behoove us to really get to know, especially some of these friendlier species, once we're allowed to do that. But they're still a little bit scared of us, and the government just needs to get off their, whatever, their cushion, and because it's like they're letting the information out a little bit at a time, but a lot of people already know that, there's sightings everywhere, and you can. And I've seen my own sightings, so it is a real thing,
Yeah, well, after we spoke last time, there was that Miami incident where the raptors were coming through the mall, and I saw the footage, and I was like, I wonder what Joanne thinks of this. But
I don't know. I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No, I usually don't. I usually don't hear about that kind of stuff, and I don't spend very much time on YouTube for distraction. So,
because I wonder, because the first thing always comes to your head is it's AI. Like they just took scenes of the mall and
was it broad daylight or at night?
I believe it was daylight. It was sort of dusk though.
Because usually, unless it's like Halloween or some kind of reason where they have that other people are dressed up, like the raptors that I talk about all the time, they're usually just not going to walk around because you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to have like open contact with humans or civilians. So I don't know that they would just be walking around a mall during the day. Now, I have known that they'll rent a mall in the middle of the night so they can go shopping, but I don't know. I kind of have to see. So if you have a link to that or whatever, let me know. But I don't know. I'm not saying it's a lie, but there
I thought it interesting. Yeah, that looked like raptors. I was like, wow, it looks like that, and so I thought of you immediately. So I'll send it.
Yeah, that'd be great because I don't know. I didn't hear about that. So
yeah, and they were interacting with the people. They were walking around like nobody should be able to see them.
Oh wow. Because they don't really cloak. Especially if you could see them in a film, obviously they weren't cloaking themselves. They can cloak their spacecraft, but I've never heard of them cloaking their selves. So that's interesting.
Then you told me to check out Jurassic World, the movies, and I just saw there's a new one coming out, The Rebirth.
Oh.
It's coming out in 2025.
Is that number 3 or number 4?
I believe...
Maybe 3. Or is it 4?
I want to say it's 4.
Okay, it might be. Because
I watched the trailer.
Is it good?
Wow. Yeah, it's like I got the impression they're growing an embryo dinosaur that's gonna be good to take out the Maleficent one.
Oh wow, interesting. Could they do? Was it in an egg or were they artificially doing it?
Yeah, it was in like a clear egg. It would look like artificial. It was the shape of an egg, but you could see it's translucent. You could see through it.
I mean, in their natural world, they lay eggs. So, yeah, they're very proud of their babies.
As we all should be. It's our ultimate creation.
I know, but they usually have several at one time. So, if I just had 6 kids, that's great. Well, it's kind of funny.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're coming up on our time, but I'm so delighted. I'm so happy to reconnect, and I hope everyone enjoys.
You too. Thank you. Yeah. And if anybody's interested, the journal is called Pathways to Healing Journal, and they're both by my name, Joanne Fawcett, and it's all on Amazon. or even my website. But yeah, Amazon's the easiest place probably to get it. If anybody wants to reach out and chat, or, if they need a friend, I'm here. So
Oh, that's
I'm
so
here.
sweet.
I'm here.
I know we need to stand together and help each other, because that's one of the beautiful ways we can get through these things with grace. Is
Sometimes
is
you just need
sisterhood.
a hug. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
sometimes you just need a hug.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Oh, I'm sending you a hug from across
Thank
the
you.
U.S.
You too.
Well, thank you again, dear sister.
Thank you, dear. You take good care.